I won 62 million in the lottery, but what my family did next haunts me forever. The night was electric when Brad Malone scratched off that golden ticket. $62 million. He couldn't believe it. His heart raced, palms slick with sweat. This was the big one, just like in those fairy tales where the underdog suddenly transforms into royalty. But little did he know, golden dreams could quickly turn to nightmares. The moment he announced his victory, everything changed. Friends swarmed in, smiles plastered on their faces like masks, but their eyes told a different story. There was something off, a chill creeping up the spine like static before a storm. Within hours, chaos erupted. His cousin Brenda, usually the cheerful one, looked like a storm cloud. You need to be careful with that money, Brad. You don't know who you can trust. Her eyes darted around the room, as if unseen hands were whispering secrets just out of earshot. Tension thickened in the air, almost suffocating. His mom, normally so supportive, stared blankly, biting her lip. Those tight-lipped silences were louder than any shout. The tension escalated when the family gathered for a celebratory dinner. Plates clattered against the faux wood table. Laughter rang with an almost forced jolliness. But every chuckle felt like a faint echo, layered with something darker. After dessert, Brenda stood up, red-faced and shaking. You're not going to just blow it all, are you? We have plans to discuss. Plan? What plan? Brad's mind raced, confusion rippling through him like a quicksand trap as he heard murmurs and whispers swirl around him like smoke. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The dining room felt like a pressure cooker. Everyone was staring at him now, the weight of expectation heavy. He could almost hear gears turning in their heads about how to grab their piece of the pie. Brad's pulse thudded in his ears, the lump in his throat tightening as the room closed in. The next hour spiraled into a frenzy of demands and threats. It was surreal, like some twisted lottery nightmare. He felt trapped, like a deer caught in headlights. Just when he thought it couldn't get worse, his brother Jake wandered in. Got an idea for us, Brad. We could invest some here, maybe start a business, but his voice trailed off, the tension crackling like static in the air. Brad felt an icy finger crawl down his spine. Was he the brother spending the winnings on dreams, or the fool who'd gotten himself into an insatiable pit of greed? And when they all turned to him eagerly, pleading glances flashing like hazard lights, one question gnawed at him. Who could he trust now? As he stared into their expectant faces, dread clutched him, as thick and heavy as fog. The room fell silent, and in that stillness, Brad felt something, the creeping sensation of betrayal. How could he know what was coming next? The next morning, the sunlight filtered through the kitchen window, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling in Brad's mind. He stared at the half-eaten bowl of cereal, its once bright colors now muted. 72 hours had passed since he turned into a millionaire, but the celebration felt more like a countdown to disaster. He could still feel the prick of fear from last night's encounter. His family had swarmed him with demands, flashing images of their wishes like dollar signs in his muddled thoughts. Brad, are you going to just sit there? Brenda's voice sliced through his fog. She stood leaning against the counter, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. You need a plan, and fast. You can't just float in this. It's my money, he mumbled, but even to himself, it sounded weak, pathetic. Yeah? And you're about to let it all slip through your fingers, she snapped. Her tone hardened. It was a far cry from the cousin who used to play hopscotch with him as kids. This new Brenda was terrifying. The rest of the family trickled in, each of them wearing faux concern half draped over faces of expectation. His mother glanced at him sideways, then poured a cup of coffee, her hands trembling, the mug clattering against the counter. Brad, honey, she finally spoke, her voice quivering. We just want to help you make the right decisions. It's just too much to handle alone. The pleading in her eyes burned, but felt also like a net ready to ensnare him. In that suffocating atmosphere, Brad felt a mix of fury and frustration. These were the same people who had cheered for him during other, quieter times, but now they looked ready to devour him whole. Jake ambled in, moving as if he had a grand plan formed in his mind. What if we start with a family business? I know a guy who every time I turn around, it feels like you have a new scheme, Brad interrupted, unable to keep the venom from seeping into his words. You act like this money is ours, and it's not. Silence blanketed the room, and the weight of his accusation hung heavily, scratching at the edges of their sanity. The tension crackled like storm clouds ready to burst. Voices overlapped, each family member jockeying for Brad's attention. Ideas, investments, promises upped with steam and glitter. Realizing he had to regain some control, he desperately forced calm into his voice. How about I take a breather? I need time to think. And think he did. As he stepped outside, the air was fresher, but the light felt harsh against his skin. He wandered down the street, the reality of his newfound fortune swirling nauseatingly inside him. What could have been a chance at freedom morphed into a binding cage, and each face of his family now shadowed his thoughts with doubts. Trust became a fickle word. Suddenly, he noticed something flickering in the bushes, silvery glints that danced in the light. Curiosity piqued. He stepped closer. To his shock, he unearthed a small package, wrapped tight in plastic. It reeked of desperation, the kind that felt like it belonged to a story begging to be told. But just as he made sense of it, a voice rang out behind him. What do you think you're doing? It was Jake, his face angry, shadows pooling under his eyes. Brad froze, heart hammering in his chest. The threat hidden behind that question lay heavy, unraveling deeper layers of distrust. Before he could respond, Jake stepped forward, past the safe distance that separated them. You're not getting into deeper waters without me, Brad. We're in this together, whether you like it or not. A chilling realization washed over him. How far would he have to go to protect what was his? What lay ahead would test the very fabric of their family, and Brad was about to find out just how deep this treachery ran. But as he turned to face Jake, the package flickered in his grasp, holding secrets that were begging to be uncovered, even if it meant facing the storm head-on. What awaited him in that little bundle might shatter everything he thought he knew about loyalty and greed. Brad's grip tightened around the package, the plastic clammy against his palm. He darted a quick glance at Jake, whose eyes glimmered with a predatory hunger. You're right. We are in this together. The words came out strained, almost mockingly. The ambient sounds of the street faded into the background, replaced by the chaos swelling in his mind. What's in there, anyway? Jake asked, his voice edged with impatience. Nothing, Brad replied too quickly. He had to protect whatever was inside, even if he couldn't quite grasp why it made his heart race like this. The flickering promise held his breath captive, pulling him deeper into the unknown. Jake stepped closer, eyes narrowing suspiciously. Come on, man. You know secrets don't fly well in families. If something's in there, it involves me too. Brad's pulse quickened as he debated revealing the truth. Should he really share something that could lead to his family's collapse? And did he want Jake's claws on any potential harm that might lie within? Just then, the rustle of leaves snagged both their attention. An older man, skinny, with a wild beard and a jacket that looked like it had been through the ringer, emerged from the shadows of the bushes. His wild eyes gleamed fiercely, and Brad instinctively stepped back, clutching the package to his chest. Hey, you found that, huh? The man called out, his voice jagged like broken glass. That's what you think it is. Brad kept a cautious grip as the man approached, his shoes crunching on the gravel. You don't need to get near it, Brad choked out, the warning hanging tense between them. Son, you don't understand. That's not just some junk. It's dangerous. You need to put it down. Jake rolled his eyes. Just some old guy trying to scare us, he scoffed. What do you know about it, buddy? The man's intense gaze flickered to Jake, then back to Brad. You think money changes everything? It blinds people. It rots their souls. Brad felt a chill creep up his spine. He had been feeling that craving for wealth twisting in his family, too, like an invisible serpent coiling tighter as they pressed their demands. What if this man knew something he didn't? What if the package contained something much darker? What's in it? Brad finally asked, the words escaping before he could take them back. The man hesitated, his crooked smile fading. I can't tell you that. All I know is, whatever's in there could put you in deep trouble. Jake laughed, dismissing the man with a wave of his hand. What are you, some kind of fortune teller? We've got to go, Brad. You can't let this guy freak you out. As Brad considered the wild man's warning, something deep within him screamed to act. The implications of the package stretched far beyond financial gain, into an abyss he could barely comprehend. But Jake's grip tightened on his shoulder, urging him back into the bubble of inflated hopes and family expectations. Forget him. We need to focus on our future. Brad's heart raced in two different directions, one, eager to know the truth in the package, and the other, paralyzed by the messy family dynamic that now felt like a full-blown war. With a flicker of defiance, he turned to the old man, breath trembling. What should I do? How can I trust what you say? The man leaned in, his breath a whisper filled with urgency. Some treasures come with costs, and they can destroy you. Open it if you dare, but be ready to face what lurks within. As the weight of the decision pressed down on him, a sharp crack echoed in the distance, making both men jump. The sound was followed by frantic footsteps, a family member running toward them, panic imprinted on their face. Brad's chest tightened. They were closing in fast, and all he could think was, would the family he'd always known turn into the monsters he feared? He took a deep breath, clutching the package closer. What was truly inside it might unravel everything. He had to decide, face the storm or retreat into the shadows. Just as he was about to speak, another frantic voice rang out, drowning his thoughts. Brad, where are you? A familiar figure emerged from the distance, and Brad's heart sank. Could this be the catalyst for everything unraveling? What chaos would come next, and what hidden truths lay waiting in that small package? The figure rushing toward him was Clara, his younger sister. Her chestnut hair whipped in the wind, wild eyes scanning the scene before landing on Brad. What is going on? She shouted, breathless. Jake turned, irritation etching his features. Nothing that concerns you, Clara. Go home. But Clara shook her head defiantly. No way. Something's wrong here. You two look like you just saw a ghost. The old man took a step back, sensing the shift in energy. This isn't a game, he said quietly, his gaze flickering to Clara as if she were a fragile candle in the wind. You're all in danger. Danger? From what? Clara's voice trembled slightly. She was trained to sense when tension brewed, and Brad could see the worry pooling in her eyes. Brad, what's in that package? The question echoed, tightening the space around them. Even Jake's bravado faltered a little. Brad's heart raced as he fought against the tide of secrets that threatened to drown him. Could he drag Clara into this chaos? Just a thing, he said finally, each word feeling heavier than the last. It's nothing you need to worry about. A shadow passed over the old man's face, quickly replaced by a knowing look. Nothing. The very fact that you're clutching it so tightly says otherwise. Before Brad could respond, Jake stepped in. We don't have time for this. Whatever this is, we can handle it later. Handle it later? Clara cut in, stepping closer. You guys always push things aside. What if this is something serious? What if it's dangerous? Frustration clawed at Brad. He glanced at Jake, who looked ready to dismiss Clara again, but the urgency in her voice made him hesitate. What do you think it is? I think you both need to open it. Now. The old man's voice dripped with gravity. Before it opens itself. A chill washed over Brad. With Clara here, and Jake pressing for answers, the air felt charged. The piece of plastic in his grip had morphed from a simple package to a ticking bomb, and he couldn't shake the sensation that they were standing on a tightrope, inches from a devastating fall. Maybe, he started, but a distant siren wailed, slicing through the tense atmosphere. It was a sound they all knew well, a sound that pointed to something even worse than the reality they were facing. And then it hit him, moments of confusion, angry whispers at family gatherings, disloyalty masked in feigned smiles. Brad, please. Clara's voice reached him, but it felt muffled, the chaos of an approaching storm blurring the edges of his thoughts. He wasn't ready to unravel their history, their secrets. What did you get involved in? The siren grew louder, intermingled with the quickening footsteps of their family, now almost at the scene. Panic gripped his throat. How had they caught wind of this? When he looked at Jake, he found his expression mirrored a tumult of his own inner turmoil. We can't let them find this, Jake said, panic creeping into his voice as he stepped back. You think they'll just let it slide? Clara shot back, her voice rising. Do you think they'll ignore us? This is way bigger than you think. The cacophony of hurried footsteps drew nearer, and Brad's heart raced. He had moments to make a choice. To share the burden or shield them from the impending fallout. Open it, Brad, Clara urged, her voice a lifeline amid the chaos. Before it's too late. With one last glance at Jake, Brad felt the weight of the package pulling him. To confront the hidden truths would mean facing a world of consequences he could barely imagine. He could feel the anticipation brewing, the startling revelation just beyond the thin plastic barrier. But what if it was a truth that could tear them apart? In that split second, it only took a whisper of doubt to crush his resolve. But a voice in the back of his mind screamed to break free from the cycle of secrets. With shaking hands, he steadied himself. Was he ready to unmask the darkness hidden in plain sight? The floodgates were about to open, but what would they unleash on their fragile lives? Okay, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Let us do it. And as the footsteps thundered closer, all he could think was, what horrors awaited them once the package was opened. The moment felt electric as Brad peeled back the edges of the package, 1,000 thoughts racing through his mind. Clara's heart seemed to pound in sync with his, both waiting for something to rip through their fragile reality. Jake stood rigid, like a deer caught in headlights, eyes flickering between Brad and the old man as if seeking permission to flee. With a swift tug, the package opened, revealing layers of crinkled paper. Brad's stomach twisted, a weight settling heavy in his gut. A small, metallic object emerged, gleaming ominously under the dim streetlight. As he lifted it, he recognized a familiar shape, a key. But where did it lead? It's a key, he muttered, almost to himself, a cold certainty washing over him. Where's it from? Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper, pregnant with unspoken fears. I don't know. The truth hung heavily in the air. Before they could process this new reality, sirens wailed even louder, vibrating through the ground like a menacing growl. The hurried footsteps crescendoed into shouts as family members spilled into view. Faces twisted with worry, they pushed forward, eyes darting anxiously to the package now partially open in Brad's hands. There they are. A voice barked from the crowd, merging with the murmurs of confusion. What are you doing out here? Brad's heart raced, panic blending with adrenaline. This wasn't just about the package anymore. It was about what was lurking in the shadows of their family. I can't, he started, glancing at the old man, who had gone pale. Why is everyone here? Because this isn't just a coincidence, the old man interjected, voice low yet firm, projecting an urgency that silenced the moment. If you have the key, then they'll come for you. For all of you. Who? Clara asked, her eyes wide, filled with dread. Those who hide the truth, he replied, taking a step back. The ones who don't want you to find out what's in that package. The implications crashed through them like a freight train, slamming down on his resolve. The shadows deepened around the arriving family, all too aware of the tension radiating from Brad's small group. Their worried expressions morphed into something darker, something more sinister. Brad, we need to go. Jake took a step back, urgency spiking in his voice. We can't let them take it. Not now. Take what? Clara's voice cracked, boiling with fear and suspicion. What else is happening? Open it, Jake urged, desperation rising as their world spiraled. Find out what it's linked to before it's too late. As the crowd closed in, Brad held the key tightly, the weight of it pulling him between the promise of answers and the threat of danger that loomed behind him. His family's eyes expressed a mix of concern and judgment, as if they were judging him for the decision he was about to make. You need to trust me, he said finally, his voice shaking. The fear gripped him and wouldn't let go. There's something much deeper here. With trembling hands, he turned the key over, heart racing as secrets swirled like shadows around them. Could he unlock the answers without unleashing the horrors tied to it? Just then, the old man's voice cut through the tension again. Remember, some truths are better hidden. Brad raised the key and took a deep breath. Would they all be on the brink of discovery or disaster? As he took one last look at Clara's terrified face, he wondered if the choice he was about to make would tear their family apart or bind them closer than ever before. With a final glance at the encroaching crowd, he whispered, "Let us find out," but before he moved, a figure materialized from behind the throng, catching their attention. The surge of fear intensified. Who had come to challenge their fate this time? The figure stepped further into the light, revealing a woman with a face twisted in anguish, her eyes darting wildly. It was Aunt Lila, someone they thought they had lost to bitterness and silence in the family drama that had unfolded years ago. The crowd parted, whispers swirling like a summer storm, thick with confusion and fear. "What are you doing here?" Clara asked, her voice trembling as she took a cautious step forward. "I was warned," Lila said, her voice shaky but urgent, like a cracked dam about to burst. "I came to find you. It's about the key." Brad's heart sank. How could she know? He glanced at the old man, who barely maintained his composure, shadowed by the weight of what they all feared was true. "What do you know?" He shot back, tension radiating from his body. Lila hesitated. Her breath came in quick, frantic gasps, each inhale a struggle. "They want what you have. They think it's the only way to close the chapter on what our family hid for so long." Brad's mind raced. "Who wants it? Who are you even talking about?" "The ones in the shadows, Brad. The ones you're not supposed to remember." She stepped closer, urgency in her tone. "They'll stop at nothing to keep their secrets buried. If you open that package, everything unravels." "Stop," Clara interjected, stepping between Brad and Lila. "What secrets? You're scaring us." Lila's face softened, concern painting her expression. "You deserve to know the truth, but not all truths are safe. Please trust me." At that moment, a surge of voices exploded from the crowd again. They were no longer whispers. They were shouts, accusing and panicking. "Get away from them." Brad turned to see some of his family members stepping forward, fists clenched, faces tight with anger and worry. His hands felt clammy around the key, the metallic surface suddenly feeling like a hot coal. The old man, regaining his composure, raised a hand to silence the group. "Listen, this isn't just a family matter anymore. It's bigger." His voice was a low, commanding echo, forcing everyone into stillness. If Lila is right, the statement hung in the air like a sword, unsheathed and gleaming under the harsh streetlights. All eyes shifted to Brad, awaiting his decision, their collective breaths held. "I need to know," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling around him. "We can't just walk away from this. I want tea." The murmurs escalated into a swell of dissent. "You can't trust her." "Don't," yelled Jake, panic creeping into his tone. With the key clutched tightly, Brad faced Lila, who nodded solemnly, desperation glazing her eyes. "If you're going to open that package, we must do it now. We don't have time." With a quick glance at Clara, who still looked terrified, he sensed the tension between them. Could he pull the thread of their family's dark past and risk everything? He felt the weight of their connected fates resting heavily on his shoulders. Then, as if summoned by his trepidation, the crowd surged forward, figures dark and ominous against the flickering streetlights. Silence fell again, broken only by muffled breaths and the sound of a heartbeat his own, pounding wildly. Brad took a step back, bracing himself. "What happens if I do? What comes next?" "Only discovery," Lila said, her voice barely a whisper. "Or destruction." Just then, from deep within the throng, a guttural laugh pierced the night. It was cold, cutting, and utterly alien. "What are you all so afraid of?" A shadowed figure called out, their voice smooth like ice. "You think you can control what is hidden? You have no idea." Brad looked around, fear painted every face, including Clara's, each recognition that they had stumbled into something far greater than themselves. "Who are you?" he yelled out, his voice strong, yet quivering with uncertainty. "What I am is unimportant." The figure stepped into the glow. "What matters is that the truth is a weapon, and you're all standing right in front of it." As the crowd tensed, Brad felt the magnitude of the moment. The key seemed to hum within his palm, pulling him toward choices yet to be made. Would he wield it, or let the darkness of their family's past claim them all? An electric breeze swept through the air, pulling a chill down his spine. The road ahead was crumbling, and he felt the fissures of fate unraveling. But one question echoed in his mind, louder than the rest, refusing to let go. What secrets had they uncovered, and would they be ready to face the truth, whatever it may be? The air thickened with tension, every eye locked onto Brad, as if he alone held the keys to their fate. The crowd behind him still murmured, suspicion palpable in the cool night. But it was the shadowed figure that held his attention, a menacing silhouette against the light, their expression inscrutable. "Why are you here?" Brad demanded, heart racing. "What do you want from us?" The figure chuckled, the sound echoing off the cobblestones. "Oh, dear Brad, it's not what I want from you, it's what you want from the past. The key is merely a means to an end, a way to unlock things better left untouched. But once you choose, there's no turning back." Lila stepped closer, her brow furrowed. "Don't let them manipulate you, Brad. There are families who have been torn apart by the truth. They don't care about your well-being. They want to destroy." "Who are you referring to?" Brad shot back, frustration tangled with fear. "Who's behind all this?" Just as the shadowed figure began to speak, a sudden commotion erupted beyond the thick walls of their gathering. Tires screeched. Voices shouted. The deep snarl of an engine overwhelmed the night. A car careened down the street, headlights slicing through the dimness like searchlights. "Run!" someone shouted, breaking the trance that had frozen the crowd. With an instinctual jolt, Brad turned toward Clara, who looked terrified. "We can't let them do this," he urged, clenching the key tightly in his hand. It felt like a heartbeat, alive and dangerous. "We have to open that package. We need answers. Brad, please." Clara's eyes flickered with panic. "We don't know what we're dealing with. Do you want to live in fear, knowing there's a truth we'll never learn?" He searched her face for agreement, feeling the weight of all their uncertain futures pressing against him. The rumble of the engine grew louder, and the shadowed figure smirked, a predatory gleam in their eyes. "Time is running out, boy. You may not have the luxury of choices for long. You think you're brave because of what you hold, but what you wish to unlock can strip away your sanity." Suddenly, the car lurched to a stop, tires screeching in a spray of gravel. Four men in dark clothing leaped out, faces obscured by hoods, their eyes reflecting the same kind of darkness that seemed to cloud the air around them. They moved with eerie synchronicity, approaching the crowd like a pack of wolves that had caught wind of prey. "Get the key, Brad. We can't let them get it." Lila screamed, breaking into a sprint away from the crowd, urgency clear in her voice. The fear in Clara's eyes flared into a fierce determination. "You mustn't let them near it," she shouted, her body inching closer to him, protective yet trembling. The baying call of danger felt like ice on their skin. The shadowed figure smirked again, drawing back into the obscurity. "You're running out of time to decide. This is only the beginning." The crowd erupted into chaos, screams and shouts blending into a cacophony of panic. Silva's face morphed into horror, eyes darting in panic, unsure whether to stay or flee. In that moment, as the men in dark pressed closer, Brad had one defining choice to make. He felt the key pulse in sync with his racing heart, its coldness both comforting and terrifying. Would he reveal the truth at last, or let their family's past drown them all in secrecy? With the shadows closing in, Brad gritted his teeth, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. Fear coiled tightly in his stomach, but resolve surged within him. He raised the key high, its light glinting under the streetlights. "I'll find out the truth," he yelled, voice steady. "I'll unlock whatever I have to." And even as the shadowed figures began their advance, those words lingered, loaded with unspoken promise. What awaited him on the other side of that decision would either shatter them or finally set them free. The sound of thudding footsteps echoed in the street, a sharp percussion against the chaotic backdrop of fearful voices. Brad's heart raced faster, thumping in his chest like a war drum. The men were getting closer. "Closer! Lila!" he shouted, catching sight of her sprinting towards the alley. She turned, her face a mask of fear laced with urgency. "Get everyone to safety." The dark figures surrounded them, closing in like an impending storm. Clara's grip tightened on his arm, their eyes locking in a shared understanding of the danger looming over them. She was terrified, but there was steel in her resolve. "We can't let them take that key." From the shadows, the voice of their ominous, fateful figure drifted over the mayhem. "You don't have to be a hero tonight, Brad. You can walk away from this. In fact, you should walk away before it's too late." Too late for what? He felt the anger bubbling up, the anguish of 1,000 questions battling to escape. But he could feel the pressing weight of the key in his pocket, emboldening him, fueling his defiance. He made a calculated decision. He wasn't turning back now. "Stay close," he yelled to Clara. They couldn't afford to be separated. He had seen what fear could do to people, how easily it tore lives apart. The evacuation of his friends was foremost in his mind, but he wouldn't allow anyone to take this moment from him. In the frenzy, he abruptly shoved the key deeper into his pocket. Its cold touch felt reassuring, grounding him amidst the whirlpool of emotions swirling around him: fear, anger, and determination whirling like a tornado in his gut. The four men formed an impenetrable wall in front of them, their collective presence towering, daunting. One of the figures stepped forth, the low light catching a glint of steel peering from his side. "You're only making things worse for everyone, Brad. Hand over the key and no one gets hurt." "No deal," Brad shouted back, his pulse quickening. The undercurrents of danger laced with adrenaline surged through him, spurring him on. "Fine." The figure's voice dripped with menace. "You've chosen the hard way." A collective growl rose from the shadows behind them. The remaining figures surged forward, their intent clear. The crowd erupted into screams, voices shranking into desperate cries, as everyone scrambled for safety. In that instant, everything else fell away. There was only Brad and Clara, standing shoulder to shoulder, their fight or flight instincts firing in sync. As the dark figures lunged, Clara shouted, "Run for the alley. We can't outfight them, but we can outsmart them." Brad waited for no further encouragement. He bolted, pulling Clara along and plunging into the tight confines of the alleyway. The noise of footsteps gave chase, but chaos stirred, and they lost some ground. "Why are they after the key?" Clara panted, glancing back, fear edging her gaze. "I don't know." He screamed over the sound of their pursuers, pushing them further into darkness. "But we have to find out." They darted left, fading into the shadows as the night swelled around them. Every corner felt like a new opportunity to lose their followers, every heartbeat a reminder of the cost of their choices. Brad's breath hitched as a sudden flicker of fear crossed his mind. The figure's warning whispered through the haze of panic: the truth they sought could lead to devastation. "Clara," his voice broke sharply, "what if they unlock something we can't handle?" As they rounded another corner, the weight of their choices pressed down like the darkness surrounding them. "Then we'll face it together," she urged, determination blazing in her eyes. Their feet skidded to a halt just ahead. A lone street lamp cast trembling shadows on the pavement, illuminating a rusty door partially ajar. "Is this it?" Brad breathed, glancing back at the pounding footsteps that echoed closer. Fear gripped him, but hope sparkled just beyond. Only one way to find out. Clara glanced at him. "We either unlock the truth or we stay running." As the door creaked slowly open, uncertainty loomed. What lay behind that door? Could unravel everything he fought for, or potentially restore hope. "Might as well find out what we're really up against," he murmured, moving forward into the unknown. But would the key they held finally make sense, or would it expose secrets better left buried in the dark? The door creaked wider, revealing a dimly lit room that smelled of dampness and mildew. A flicker of cold wind danced around them as they stepped inside, the sounds of the outside world fading into a haunting silence. The air felt heavy, almost as if the room was breathing alive and aware. "What is this place?" Clara whispered, her voice barely a breath. Brad glanced around, straining his eyes to adjust to the dimness. The walls were lined with shelves cluttered with old crates and dust-covered artifacts, remnants of another time. A small table near the center held a few flickering candles, creating a pool of light that fought against the darkness. "Seems like an old storage space," he replied, his voice low as though speaking too loudly might shatter the hush. "But why would they want to chase us here? What is so special about that key?" Clara reached into her pocket, fingers brushing against the cool, metallic surface of the key. "It must unlock something. But what?" Before Brad could answer, they heard scuffling outside. The footsteps grew louder, thudding against the pavement like thunder. The time they spent hiding was dwindling. He felt the panic begin to claw at his chest. The threat was closing in, and there was no way they could let those men find them. "Quick, over here." He directed Clara toward a dusty curtain in the corner, pulling it aside to reveal a narrow passageway. The room seemed endless, but the chilling dread reminded him of the urgency. As they squeezed into the passage, the sounds of the outside world dimmed, but the tension crackled in the air like static electricity. The passage narrowed as they moved, forcing them closer together. Their bodies brushed against one another, amplifying the sensation of being trapped. It wasn't just fear for their lives. It was fear of what they might find. Do you think they know where we are? Clara's voice quivered, practically swallowed by the silence. They don't know, Brad assured her, though doubt flickered in his mind. But we have to keep moving. As they crawled along, the walls seemed to close in, and his heart raced faster with each inch. The key felt burning hot against his thigh. It was a simple object, yet it had become the center of this escalating storm. Suddenly, they emerged into a larger chamber, and Brad's breath hitched. Scattered across the floor were old, tattered maps and diagrams, many hastily drawn and annotated. At the far wall, a large iron door loomed, its lock seeming to glimmer with promise. Is this it? Clara breathed, her eyes wide with disbelief. I think this is what the key was meant for, Brad murmured, moving closer. Intricate engravings coated the door, telling stories of ancient secrets that twisted and turned, weaving a web of history Brad could barely grasp. This was a place of forbidden knowledge, a sanctuary for the hidden and the damned. Should we? Clara hesitated, glancing back at the passage. The echo of footsteps thundered outside again, more relentless than before. We can't risk being caught. If this door leads to what they want, we need to figure it out now, he urged, his fingers wrapping tightly around the key, holding it like a lifeline. Okay, but let us be quick. As he approached the door, a looming weight settled over him. Was he ready for whatever lay beyond? The choice felt monumental, as if turning that key could shatter everything or unlock their greatest fear. Here it goes, he whispered, sliding the key into the rusted lock. It felt smooth against his skin, a contrast to the chaos outside. With a deep breath, he turned the key. The door clicked ominously, but something stirred deep within the shadows. A low growl rumbled, reverberating around the chamber. What was that? Clara breathed, eyes wide, fear creeping back into her expression. Brad's heart raced as terror gripped him. I don't know, but we need to open this door now. The door began to swing open slowly. As the darkness peeled away, an icy wind burst through, sending chills racing down their spines. What awaited them on the other side? Before they could step in, the shadows whispered secrets, urgency tightening around them like a noose. What if they unleashed something from beyond, something they couldn't contain? Their world was about to change forever. The door creaked open wider, revealing a dimly lit chamber that felt like a page from a forgotten tale. Dust motes danced in the air, illuminated by a single flickering bulb hanging from the ceiling. Cold air swept over them, making Brad shiver. Clara gasped, stepping closer to him, her eyes wide with a mix of dread and curiosity. What is this place? She whispered. I don't know, but it feels important, Brad said, his voice barely above a whisper. The room was filled with old books and artifacts, remnants of a history they had never dared to uncover. This was the hidden archive, the heart of the family's secrets. Feeling a surge of determination, Brad stepped inside, urging Clara to follow. The air hummed with anticipation, and the key pulsed like a heartbeat in his pocket. We need to find out what they're hiding from us, he said, conviction growing with each word. But the moment felt fragile, filled with the echo of urgency. Clara moved closer, peering around the room with caution. If they find us here, she began, but Brad cut her off. We won't let that happen. We have to unlock the truth. Pushing deeper into the room, they came across a large wooden table stacked with papers and dusty journals. Flickering memories washed over Brad as he flipped through them, forcing open the heavy covers. Names jumped out, family members they had known, intertwined with stories of secrecy and betrayal. They had buried so much under layers of lies. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from behind them, followed by frantic footsteps. The dark figures were closing in fast, their intentions clearer than ever. They know we're here, Clara cried, her voice trembling. Brad's heart pounded as he darted toward the iron door. We have to be quick. He retrieved the key from his pocket, its metal glinting ominously in the dim light. Just as he reached the lock, it felt as if the walls themselves were closing in, filled with her whispers of warning from beyond. Remember, some truths are better hidden, the old man's warning echoed in his mind. But now it was too late to back down. With a swift turn, he inserted the key, feeling the weight of his decision heavy. He pushed down and turned it, the sound resonating like thunder in the confined space. The iron door swung open, revealing a passage lined with darkened corridors, stretching far beyond the light. The moment he stepped through, the air shifted. The dread of uncovering what lay ahead gripped him. Shadows flickered, and in the distance, he heard the faint whisper of voices, a dangerous current flowing through the air. "Please, Brad, we shouldn't be doing this." Clara's fear surfaced, clutching at his heart. Before he could respond, a group of the dark figures appeared at the entrance, their silhouettes stark against the light. "Stop right there," one shouted, stepping forward, his face masked. "This is your last chance," another one taunted, brandishing something that glinted the reflection of danger, of choices that could crush them in an instant. "Run!" Clara screamed, breaking the spell of terror. They darted further down the corridor, adrenaline propelling them forward. Brad's mind raced, grappling with the weight of the key and the implications of what they might unlock. They stumbled upon a vast chamber, littered with artifacts that spoke of their family's hidden past. Amidst the artifacts, he spotted a chest, ancient and ornate, its lock matching the one the key had just opened. This has to be it," he said, his voice echoing their shared urgency. Clara nodded, eyes shining with fear and determination. "Let us open it together. We need to know what's inside." They approached it tentatively, Brad feeling the weight of their collective histories pressing down upon him. "Whatever is in here may change everything," he warned. "Just do it," Clara said fiercely. "We need to make a stand." With trembling hands, he inserted the key into the lock of the chest. It was the culmination of their journey, the moment of truth. He turned the key, and the chest opened with a satisfying creak, revealing stacks of photos and documents. "Look," Clara gasped, picking up an old photograph. It was brittle with age, generations of their family, smiling in front of this very house hidden in plain view. "This is incredible," Brad said, his heart hammering as he flipped through the documents detailing decades of family struggles, sacrifices, and decisions made in the shadows. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the chamber. The dark figures were searching for them, a lingering menace closing in. "We have to go? Now," Brad shouted. "But we can't leave this," Clara protested, holding tightly onto the contents spilling from the chest. "You're right," he realized, the pieces clicking together. "This is our family's legacy, and it's time the truth comes out." Setting a fire in his chest, Brad gathered the documents, cramming them into a backpack he saw nearby. They shifted through the remaining artifacts, aware the dark figures were moments away from breaking through. Stealing their resolve, they started to retreat back toward the cavernous entrance, clutching their truth in hand. As they neared the old wooden door, voices raised behind them. The threat was close. Heavy footsteps echoed, but the key they uncovered was their weapon. They were uncovering the power hidden in their family's past, and together they could face whatever would come next. Just as they reached the threshold, the dark figures burst into the chamber, fury storming in their eyes. But as Brad stepped into the open air, the weight of the truth felt liberating, wrapping around them like a protective cloak. "We need to tell everyone," he said, determination burning bright. It wouldn't be easy to drag their toxic history into the light. Clara nodded seriously. Together, no more secrets. As they emerged into the brightness of the moonlight, Brad felt the grip of fear begin to fade. They had a chance not just to save themselves, but to heal generations of hurt. The key had unlocked more than a chest. It had freed them from a cycle of silence. In that moment, as they faced the darkness gathering behind them, Brad understood that the shadows would remain, but they would hold their truth. "Let us go home," he said with newfound hope. They turned their backs to the haze of past secrets, walking away into the dawn of a brighter future, where the weight of betrayal was lifted and the bonds of family could be forged anew. And that was the moment they stepped towards a new beginning. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Support the channel and join our amazing community today.